MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by The Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below.
Order filled. Order filled.
MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. All right, what's going on? Hope everybody had a good weekend. Hope you got a good start to your week. Somewhat interesting morning. Quick sound check. Everything sounds good. Alright. So I got a lot to get to this morning. I only ended up taking one trade. I missed the second trade, and then I had to start to prepare for some things I want to cover this morning. So we'll just see how things flow. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. I don't want to do a whole lot of build up and leading into stuff. So one thing I do want to mention real quick is that for anybody who's interested, since last Friday, I believe, sometime at the end of last week, there's a lot of these prop firms that they started having sales. Two that I know about, which is Lilu and Apex, and I think Earn the Trade is doing something also, and that's continuing on throughout. So I think Lilu ends theirs tomorrow, and Apex ends theirs Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. But it's still going on. So if you're interested in prop trading and getting inside of these funded programs, then they have some pretty good sales right now. I think Apex is 80% off the first month, and then 60% recurring. So with any month that you need to carry over, or that you still trying to get through the evaluation, it'll be 60% off those monthly fees. And then Lilu, they're just offering 55% off lifetime, right? However long it takes you to pass the evaluation, you can pay for that evaluation with a 50% off discount. The link to all of those are in the description. Now, the other thing I want to go ahead and mention real quick is that the next video is just a preview of the next video that I'll be working on. If I can find the right, there we go. All right, so that's just a preview. This is a little shout out real quick of the next video that'll be coming up. I'm gonna record that today, and we'll get that out ASAP. All right, so what have we seen this morning? Let's get to the markets. Drink some water real quick. So overnight, we didn't have a lot of movement, nor did we have a lot of volume. Now this is an FOMC. This is an FOMC week. So, from my perspective, what we've seen so far is pretty typical as, the general population prepares for FOMC. And so we didn't have a lot of volume coming into the open. Pretty decent volume right now. Nothing too crazy. But what ended up happening is at the open, we had a little bit of a volatility spike that I was watching, and I didn't really, I waited for a better entry. I didn't really like the price action at that time. And then what ended up happening, if I can talk, what ended up taking place is we started using PR-1 as a supply area, and we let go of a little bit of supply off of PR-1, picked up some quick inventory, and we just started budgeting off of PR-2. And then, that took us back to PR-1 for this supply dump that we had following that. But that, of course, that didn't happen right away. We were, moving orders back and forth, taking us down. Now we do have a wide neutral zone spread, so the PRs is kind of, you got to consider that when you're looking at the power range levels. But that took us from almost 100 points. It was pretty much 100 points within that roughly 15-minute period. So right now we're looking at a supply heavy market, and we're just still marking down. We did take so I'm looking at the statistics. I'm trying to get the time. So like within the last 2 to 3 minutes, we dropped inventory slightly, and now we're picking up inventory to the tick off of PR-3. Very mechanical. So it's very mechanical this morning. So that's what we're looking at this morning, right? So other than that, it's not really, it's just wholesale as usual. I'm not saying anything super significant to point out. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next section of this. I'm gonna play this video, and you can see it in the chat with this the link to this video. I'm gonna play a little section of it because I want to. This is like a seminar or a workshop from Mark Douglas, and it's a lot of good stuff in there, right? Shout out to I'm gonna mess up his name because he has a unique name, but you know who you are in the Discord for sharing this video. I'm just gonna call you SK, just to keep it simple. Right. So shout out to you for sharing this video. You know, they have a lot of, if you're not in the Discord, you probably want to get there. There's a lot of gems out in the Discord that are very, I think it's really helpful to no matter what stage, no matter what level you're at. But anyway, so this was shared in the Discord yesterday, and I listened to this one and the follow up to it, and some really good stuff in here. But let me just stop it all to lead up. Let me get into it. If I can get my stuff together, there we go.
Goes back to when I was doing the contrast, okay, is that to experience a winning trade, you need nothing. I'm not saying that you don't put something into it, but the fact is you need nothing. There's no skills that are required to experience a winning trade. But to experience consistent results as a trader, the kind of results that you can rely on as an income, there's some pretty kind of profound skills that we're talking about, are we not? You got to have an edge. You got to have a plan on how to execute the edge. You got to be able to execute the plan flawlessly, or at least without a minimum number of errors, or otherwise it's going to detract from your results. You got to be able to recognize when you might have some self-sabotaging beliefs that are rising to the surface, to saying, hey, this is too much money. Why do you think it is that you have probably read in some of the trading books, I'm sure you have read at some point, that someone gives you the advice that when you have windfall profits to stop trading and take a vacation? Why do you think that advice exists? Why do you think people have written that down? I just gave you the underlying dynamics for why that's true. It's not just the euphoria. No, it's not the terror afterward. It's the possibility for self-sabotaging beliefs coming in and saying, I am not worth this much money. Even though it's what I want. It's what I desire. It's what I've been working for. It doesn't mean that you believe you really deserve it. You have to believe you really deserve it to keep it.
All right, so that's the point I really want to point out there. And appreciate your spec cons for that. I forgot how I was running this. I was trying to turn down the music and turn that up, but that's the part I want to talk about, the euphoria part, or the part to where he was talking about he was talking about the psychology of it, of course, right? Smart Douglas, we know what he talks about, and how your beliefs can feed into the results that you get. Pretty much. So when I heard that, right, when I heard him go over that and mention that and go through that little part of it, that reminded me of last year, or wasn't necessarily last year, but last season for the NBA playoffs, right? And how you had the Timberwolves that they had to, they were trying to make it into the playoffs, and they had to go through, if you're not familiar with how the NBA works, you don't really watch basketball. So there's the top bottom teams below, I think it's like the 7th seed and lower. They have to, towards the end of the season, they have a play-in tournament that they have to play in order to make it into the playoffs, right? So one of these teams is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they had their last play-in game to make it into the playoffs. And when they won the game, it was a pretty good game. And when they won the game, they started, going crazy and crying and all kind of stuff. They were just, a lot of emotions they were showing a lot of emotions, and you would have thought they won the championship. And from that moment, as soon as I saw them doing that, I knew, well, they're not going to make it out the first round. So are they going to be lucky to make it out the first round? So why would I think that? It's because for them to have that sort of reaction for just simply making the playoffs, it's like they didn't really feel like they belonged there. They didn't feel like they were supposed to be in the playoffs. Now, if you felt like you belong in a situation, or you feel like something is supposed to happen, it just has to happen because this is how it's supposed to work, then you're not going to have as big of an emotional response to it, because this is just how it is, right? When you wake up in the morning, because you're healthy, if you wake up in the morning, you're 15 years old, you don't go crazy about waking up, right? Depending on what kind of teachings you get, right? Because there's certain teachings that tells you to be super grateful about waking up and how the blessings and all that. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, right? But for the average person, the average 15-year-old, just waking up is waking up. And it's a blessing to wake up. It's really good to wake up, to be able to wake up and live another day. However, because you feel like you're supposed to be waking up and living, you don't have a huge emotional response when you wake up in the morning. You just wake up and you get up whenever you get up, right? And you go through your little, whatever your routine is. So, that's what triggered that. Him saying what he said about that was what triggered that thought. And that's where you'll get a lot of traders to where, and I'm saying this from personal experience, to where you'll have a really good day, and then you'll feel on top of the world. You'll have that euphoria or whatever. You'll have a bad day, right? Whatever happens, you'll have a strong emotional response to it because you don't really feel like you deserve it. Now, of course, I'm not speaking in absolutes. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know I don't really speak in absolutes, but that's just, I think that does fall into the majority of traders, or a majority of people, right? If something happens that you deep down, whether you're aware of it or not, and see, that's the key, being aware of it. If something happens and you have a strong emotional response to it, it can be very helpful and impactful to have a deep understanding, or try to dig deep into why you're having that strong, above average emotional response, right? So I felt like that was a really impactful lesson right there that he that's just one of the many gems that he gives in this video. And then I didn't watch the part 1, but part 3 is also really good, what I've watched of it so far. And I probably have another video, because it a lot of what he was going through triggered a lot of stuff for me to go into. So talking about that, so kind of one way to, when we start trying to deal with stuff like that and you're trying to improve yourself, a lot of what I'll see people do, especially those who try to teach how to be good in this environment, is the money will be a heavy proponent of where you need to focus, and how you measure yourself in terms of your ability to be able to trade well. And the money aspect of it is a huge focus, right? But if you're struggling to be consistent, what I've discovered is that focusing on the money is pointless, right? Because going back to that, this whole game is about beliefs and skill, right? You first have to deal with your beliefs, or you have to deal with, how am I trying to say this? You should first deal with your beliefs that's more likely creating fears, or bringing up fears, right, that are limiting your ability to perform to your fullest potential, right? And in the meantime, while you're addressing those beliefs, while you're focusing on fixing those beliefs, because those beliefs can be bringing up fears or other emotional responses that can lead to things like this euphoria. While you're doing that, you can be also working on your skills. Because the way that I look at this, the two biggest things with trading is going to be your beliefs and the skill level that you bring to this environment, right? Everything else that comes after that, that's just a byproduct. And stuff like making money, right, and other things, that, you know, that's gonna come with how you address your beliefs and how you work on your skill level. So while you're working on your beliefs, you can use things like the sim, and he talks about this here too in this video. You can work on your skills like in sim trading, by sim trading, which is, for me, paper trading and doing replay mode and all that stuff. All that's mainly to work on your skills, right? Now, I'm kind of jumping the gun here on some things that I want to talk about, but that can also, if you start, other things start coming up while you're paper trading, pay close attention to that, because that's revealing things that you could be working on, right? Especially in the terms of beliefs. So if you're paper trading and you still find yourself messing up because you hear your ego talking and you're getting messed up by wanting to be right, then that right there, that's a clear evidence as to why that's something that you need to work on. All right. So with this beliefs, I give a little story about my start in it, right? So in the beginning, throughout most of my life, I used to tell myself that I really didn't care about money, right? I would tell myself that, oh, it's just money, it's just a tool, blah blah blah. I don't really care about money like that. But what happened with trading, once I started trading, it started to uncover a lot of those things that were very deep inside that I was not really conscious to. And so what trading taught me is that me telling myself that I didn't really care about money couldn't be further from the truth. The truth was that I really did care about money so much, right? I cared about money a lot, so much that I told myself I didn't care about the money, in a way of covering up the fact that I actually cared about it. And that has there's a lot more to that as to why I cared about money so much. But just to keep things kind of surface level, so I don't get taken down this deep road of over explaining stuff. That was revealed to me as I started trading, that I actually did care about money, and I was looking for a solution to solve whatever money problems that I saw at that time, right? So I actually came into me having the solution. The solution came to me to solve the money problems that I was seeing. But because I was lying to myself that whole time, subconsciously, that by the time I got the solution, I couldn't really take advantage of it because of this belief that I was having. And I had to go back. Eventually, it took years actually, because just the information that a lot of people put out on the internet into these spaces about the right way to trade and how to approach this business, how to approach this they'll call it a job or whatever. I had to go through the slow process, extremely slow process of figuring out that it wasn't really about all that other stuff. Like I somewhat read. So Mark Douglas is interested in me because I somewhat read the Trading in the Zone book, and just like this video, for me it started slow. Now, if I would have watched this video, let's say 3 years ago, then I would be saying that I would have a totally different perspective on it. This one only started slow for me because of how much I progressed over time. But getting back to the point, so I had my belief, my limiting belief, and I had the solution to address that belief. But because I wasn't really doing that work on the belief, by the time I got the solution, I couldn't take advantage of it. So once I actually discovered once I got honest with myself and I dug deep into my beliefs, and I figured out that, okay, no, I really do care about money, and money is important to me. And then that's when I was able to do what I mentioned in the Friday's video or Friday's session about, kind of giving a shout out to Bulletproof Entrepreneur and how I was able to work through that and neutralize that whole environment. And now, that whole thought process, and now I'm able to take advantage of all the work that I did before that related to the solution that I had that I was looking for to my money problems, but I couldn't take advantage of it. The point is, I couldn't take advantage of it until I first addressed that belief, right? So again, that's just another example as to why I believe that the two biggest things with trading is going to be your beliefs about just life in general, your beliefs about your personal life and personal relationships, your beliefs about this environment, your beliefs about just whatever your beliefs is, all your beliefs, you're bringing all of those beliefs into this environment when you step in front of these screens and you start trading. So there's one more thing I want to mention, right? In this video, it's like the latter part of this video where Mark was talking about, he was kind of, he was talking about everything that I just, went over right there. And he was talking about how once you've done that work, how you can now be a little bit more subjective with your trading decisions, right? Because now, so for example, let's just say normally I'll place a trade. I just it's gonna take too much. I wanted to use the charts as an example, but let me just keep going how I'm gonna do this, right? So let's say normally I would place a trade and I would have a 10-point stop loss, just as an example, right? It's a random example. Now I'll get into that trade and then I'll watch the market, and based on my experience and my skill level and the things that I've become accustomed to as seeing the type of environment that I want to participate in, the trade will start going against me, and instead of just letting it go all the way to that 10-point stop loss, I'll go ahead and cut it early, right? So as long as I'm doing that from experience and as a skill, and it's not based on a fear, that decision is not a fear-based decision, then that can be, it's cool to be it's cool to be subjective that way, right? But again, it goes back to being aware of what's going on internally with you, with yourself, and know that you're making that decision based off your experience and not off of fear of losing money or fear of being wrong, right? So now, why this was so important to me, it wasn't, that's still, we're talking about the same thing, but what stuck out to me with this one is a lot of times, we'll just call them teachers in this space, they'll skip all that stuff that I just talked about, right? And they'll start traders off from that subjective standpoint, right? So they'll tell traders that, you need to stick to your plan, and I've even done this earlier on when I was putting out stuff on YouTube, right? I wasn't, I was in a different place. All right, we got it. So, they'll tell traders to stick to your plan, and, all the stuff that's technical and that's not about the trader themselves. And then when the trader, they fail to benefit from whatever that the teacher is teaching, right? And a lot of times this happens in paid programs. So the new trader, they'll fail to get the benefits from the product or the service that they paid for. And then the teacher end up blaming the trader, right, for not taking it seriously, or like being incapable of being a trader. Like you're not, trading is not for you, since you couldn't follow it's work for me, as I'm the teacher, right? So I'm telling the new trader, this worked for me, it's worked for all these other students. If it's not working for you, then it's probably you're probably not capable of being a trader or participating in this environment. This is the kind of typical responses that you'll get from most of the teachers in this space. So they would basically see the new trader as having a problem, And they will be right. The new trader does have a problem. But however, the bigger problem is that teacher isn't necessarily the right fit for that student. So as a teacher, if you decide to be a teacher in this space, you have that responsibility, right? To be aware if they have the ability to appropriately apply your lessons, right? Or to even, hear your lessons. Meaning, if you should know if the student is ready to be your student. Now, stuff like your livelihood and, your objective to make money and all that stuff could be a blinder, or it could be a barrier of you actually serving that student the way how they need to be served, right? But at the end of the day, if you decide to be a teacher in this space, you have that responsibility whether you want to accept it or not. Now, all of this doesn't mean that the student is not on, the student is off the hook. The student has a responsibility too. And the student's responsibility should be more simple, because the student's responsibility is just knowing themselves and being honest with themselves, right? So if you're a student, you need to, when you come across someone that's teaching something that you're interested in, you have to, or you should vet that first, that the whole situation, to see if it's a good fit for you. Now, you can still take the lesson. You can still go through it, right? But the way that I would recommend doing it is using, regardless of what the teacher is doing, going through that lesson is going to uncover a lot of things. It's going to uncover your beliefs. It's just going to do it, right? So now, having that awareness to self, it's a good thing, because no matter what environment that you find yourself in, you are empowered if you operate from within, because once those things are revealed, now you know what you need to be working on. It may not necessarily be the technical stuff. It may be, more than likely, it's going to be as a new trader, as someone new in any space, what's revealed by going through that process. If you focus on that from within, those things will be revealed to you, and then you'll have the power to work on that. And to me, like, that's the only shortcut in this whole business, right? Everybody's looking for the shortcut. That is a clear shortcut for me, right? To where you can take a course, you can sign up for a mentorship, you can sign up for these master classes and all this stuff, and really start to gauge your beliefs and see how you perform with whatever that they're offering as a product or as a service, focusing on your beliefs, and now you know exactly what you need to work on, right? And there's a reason why I'm like even talking about all this stuff, because I had to figure all this stuff out the hard way, because no one else was talking about it. The origin says, and the student that is struggling on a deeper note is a reflection of our teacher. Absolutely. Our teacher has the responsibility, by holding that awareness, to really dig into the issue as it would uncover issues with our teacher. Ooh. Because it's a mirror, right? And it's always, you always have that polarity there. But I'm gonna leave it there. So now, a lot of times, so what happened was that student, if you don't operate from that perspective, you don't operate from within when you go through those situations, and this is what I see commonly, is the student that is seeing this product as a problem and not using that to uncover the problems within themselves. Instead, they just write it off as a scam, or that the product is really no good, or whatever, right? And then, they'll stay in their loop, and they won't ever progress beyond that. And that doesn't mean that there are no, I'm not in any way saying that there are no scammers out there, because there definitely are. There are people out there literally trying to scam people, right? But the more that you operate from within, the easier it'll be for you to identify those areas. And even with the people that are out there to scam other people, you can still benefit from them as well. You notice a scam, you find out whatever you need to find out from that situation, and then you keep moving forward and you keep progressing forward. So, that's basically everything that I really wanted to cover this morning in terms of this video. And I would highly recommend that, if you haven't seen this before, to go back and watch it, or to go and watch it, the full video. And also part 3, those are the 2 that I have watched. And to me, there are a lot of gems in it. So just knowing that part 2 and part 3 has a lot of gems, I can only imagine what any other parts to this, how many gems could be in it, and how helpful it could be to, depending on what level, what area you're at. Even I picked up some stuff from it with the understanding that I have at this point. So I think it's good for, anybody at any level, because this is another perspective that you can use to develop yourself. So all of that, as I thought, would take me well beyond where I need to be getting all of my numbers and all of that stuff. So let me just do a real quick look at the markets again, because I was not looking at the charts at all, and see where we're at. So we haven't really made a whole lot of progress beyond where I initially started analyzing things. All right, analyzing what took place from the wholesale perspective. We've only made it, let's see, about 50% between, this power range zone between PR minus 3 and PR minus 4. And we're just budgeting right here. We're being held down, or we have supply. We're catching supply off of automation. Up until when I'm, right now, to where we're starting to mark up supply above automation. And we have a lot of participation right here at supply. So it'd be interesting to see where they take price from here. We are far away from the VWAP. We're far away from our mean. So what I'll be looking for here is to see how do we get back to the mean? Because eventually we got to go back to the mean. So normally the way that I look at it is I'm either looking for price to be taken back to the mean, whatever you're looking at as the mean, or they're going to meet somewhere in the middle. And I would say rarer occasions, do they hold price in a way that brings the mean back to price, if that makes sense. And now, so we see some more supply lift, getting once again a mechanical supply response off of PR minus 3. Testing that area once again, more mechanical responses. So we know that we have participation here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have more sellers than buyers or more buyers than sellers. We just have participation here, and that, from here, price could be taken in either direction. Because, well, why do I say it like that? Because in order for price to move, every time price moves a tick, you have to have a buyer and a seller. So this price moving is pretty much us witnessing order matching. So So on that note, I would say definitely pay attention, or go watch part 3 of this Mark Douglas series. So with all that being said, appreciate your origin. Appreciate everybody else for coming through. And I hope y'all have a good rest of the week, and a good rest of your session today. And we'll see you on Friday. be on the lookout for the next video or two. I may end up making 2 videos. We'll see. I'm in a really creative space right now, so you know, I almost wanted to make this video last night, but you know, I couldn't. I didn't have the space or the opportunity to do it last night, so it just made for a good rant today. All right. So anyway, with all that being said, have a good rest of the week, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Trade it easy.